The Copycat archetype is a near unavoidable character type in most battle series or stories centered around any sort of competition. Their implementation is one of a Swiss Army knife, meant to have multiple Joker cards in their possession at a time. Thus, because of their multiple trump cards, these types of characters can float in a very polarizing area. If they are capable of copying anything or specifically seeing any technique and doing that technique, then how could they feasibly lose any interaction? Every single out should be in their arsenal, so they can't really lose or be bad, right? This is the question which establishes a delicate balance for characters of the archetype. When you have a character who can do everything, how can you not only make this bit of their character balanced in theory and in practice within the world they exist in, aside from power cliffing them? In my experience, Hunter x Hunter, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Blue Lock depict their delicate balancing act quite well. So let's begin with the oldest of them, Chrollo Lucilfer. Chrollo, in the context of Hunter x Hunter's vast world, is a relatively big fish. Between running a 2-on-1 versus two of the strongest characters in the story and making a plan which factors in several different abilities on top of levels of setup, he's demonstrated not only an understanding of combat, but how to leverage his nen ability Bandit Secret. Bandit Secret allows Chrollo to take and use any Hatsu of his choosing so long as certain criteria are met. In a series like Hunter x Hunter, knowledge is key to fighting any battle. Chrollo offers a rejection to such a notion because of how vast his arsenal is. There seems to be no true limit to what he can access at any given time. However, a limiting effect to this point is how much setup needs to be implemented in order for him to be able to use everything as effectively as possible. For example, in his fight against Hisoka, he continuously has to maneuver and leverage his environment to create his attack chances whilst implementing further actions to cement his desired endgame. Despite his clear capabilities of fighting up close and personal if need be, that seems to be somewhat of a last resort. Chrollo is a harassed and overwhelmed type of copycat character. Despite being able to harm Hisoka, he stuck to the shadows to form cracks in his opponent's guard and hammered away at them. Chrollo uses the information he gave Hisoka against him to blow off his hand and then proceeds to snowball his advantage by pressuring him further with puppets and any other type of obstacle that he could provide so that Hisoka could not get away from Chrollo's desired victory. Compare this to his fight against the Zoldyx, where he was constantly on the defensive. This is not to disregard the clear disadvantage he was at thanks to not only the numbers game, but also him trying to steal their nen abilities at the same time. When things are not in Chrollo's favor, he'll stand his ground to fight, but when he can, he will use knowledge or his surroundings to abuse them against his opponent to get ahead. In comparison to the other two yet to be mentioned, he's capable of using more than one ability at a time, creating an equal offensive and defensive style of fighting. A style that is handicapped by the Bandit Secret's inherent restrictions. Without his bookmark, Chrollo can only use one of his abilities at one time, and the way each one acts is dependent upon the user's opinion with said ability. To explain this in more depth, Chrollo has an ability called Order Stamp, which allows him to control corpses or living humans as long as the head is attached to the body. If the head is detached, then the effect fizzles. He can't break this restriction in any way because the ability is technically not his to begin with, and something impossible to make his own by any stretch of the imagination. To think of it from a thief's perspective, think of it as if you stole an original treasure, then tarnished it by tweaking it or changing it somehow to make it your own. To change a treasure like this would change the treasure's worth and would no longer be what it once was. Additionally, to even steal from his targets, Chrollo has to be extremely intimate with them. He can't just take an interest in a target's Hatsu, he has to question them about it. He has to witness it in use and get them to touch the cover of Bandit's Secret all within an hour. These restrictions on Chrollo's Hatsu are what make him as balanced as he is broken. Chrollo doesn't rule through sheer force, but an ability to overwhelm his opponents with the volume of his options coordinated perfectly with any plan he can hatch. He's a strategist through and through, creating a character who overcomes even the limitations of his abilities, even if somewhat, to make any possibility a reality, all the while staying within the realm of believability. A sorcerer's curse technique in JJK determines 80% of their potential, so the better the technique, the stronger the sorcerer will be. Gojo's Limitless being a key example of this. Granted, it's the blessing of the Six Eyes in addition to his technique, which solidified his place as one of two of the strongest in JJK. Yuta, albeit not as strong, is similarly blessed through his large amounts of curse energy and innate curse technique Copy. Where Chrollo's arsenal is practically limitless, Yuta's is very limited, as too many curse techniques would overload his brain, and he uses Rika as a sword system for his extra curse techniques. Yuta's requirements to gain techniques is for Rika to ingest a piece of the target's body and not have the piece taken be regenerated. The explanation is when a limb or a piece of the body is regenerated, the previously eaten piece's sorcery value goes to 0. While this factors in to make Yuta's power of Copy less broken, it also factors into his character morally speaking, because he only maintains Inumaki and Angel's techniques due to their arms not being able to be restored. Copy's restriction reads as a mix of purposefully nerfing the ability and demonstrating Yuta's personality through it. Furthermore, Rika acting as a storage system for curse tools and curse techniques makes a measurable limit to his options while boosting them substantially. Regardless of time limit, Rika's ability to give Yuta a partner who is equal to, if not greater than him in strength at his side, but also granting him access to curse tools or techniques, makes his versatility go through the roof. When you include his domain expansion that buffs him and gives him access to all of his curse techniques in rapid succession at the expense of not knowing which it is until he picks up a sword, he becomes really strong. All of these steps to understand Yuta's full power are not only needed to curve how powerful he is, but also play into his character extremely well. Much like his curse technique, Yuta's strength is tied to others. Against Sukuna, his allies gave him the necessary trump cards when he needed to push Sukuna into a corner. Rika lifts his mental and physical burdens, acts as a hallmark of his aptitude for sorcery, and is one of his most cherished relationships. Yuta's copycat nature is as much a strong ability as it is a manifestation of his connections. Even so, Yuta's curse technique, regardless of its restrictions, is not what actually makes him so dangerous. It's his amount of cursed energy and proficiency to use it at such a high level. Yuta fought Oro, whose curse technique breaks half the verse when she appeared. He took down Kurudushi basically single-handedly, fought Drew, the fourth member of a deadlock, without breaking a sweat in their fight, and then he fights Ryu bare-handed several times without Rika at his side. Yuta on his own is extremely capable, and to put the cherry on top of this cake, he also fights Sukuna, albeit in his domain, bare-handed multiple times, and Sukuna is also weakened, but let's just not say this isn't a feat of his strength with or without his technique at his disposal at all times. As Yuta puts it, he is blessed, not as the strongest of his verse, but as a sorcerer who can use his curse technique at a high level, and also his curse energy reinforcement or output at a high level as well. Reo Mikage is definitely a standout for this trio, and there's no denying that. He isn't a fighter or going toe-to-toe with homicidal clowns or multi-armed monsters with multiple eyes and a mouth stomach. What he does have though is possibly the archetype's most scathing critique, flaw, or problem that people will probably take up with copycat characters. There are no limits on his ability. Chrollo and Yuta are limited by the rules of their unique power systems and the criteria for their individual abilities to work. To become stronger fast comes at a cost, be it a binding vow or trading your future to realize your full potential. Reo has virtually no limits, except for a few. He cannot fully copy his teammates' abilities at 100% as of yet, and he is in a team setting. As a team, Reo can function as a supporter, attacker, or defender. His versatility is capable of any role on the field. He can copy Bachida, Nagi, Shigiri, anyone. His spark is built upon his talent to do this, but he's also capable of replacing everyone. Why have defenders like Nico who specialize in defensive roles when you have Reo who can do it all? Reo is capable of invalidating anyone on the field by copying them basically perfectly. Strength, offense, defense, there's no role he can't play or weaknesses in him. Genius or talented learner, he can copy them all, creating a player who offsets an already delicate balance in Blue Lock's game since strikers come back to defend when the defense doesn't feel like it, which is where the team aspect and position allocations for soccer factors in really strongly. Soccer has a wide play space. Despite being a midfielder who's meant to have full field presence, Reo can't be everywhere, especially since he has to cover the right flank as the right midfielder. He'll be able to support anyone anywhere he needs to along the side in order to create pressure for opponents on both offense and defense. While Blue Lock may not have a power system to limit such a strong character like Reo, the inherent mechanics of the game it's centered around does. The midfield is where he can dominate freely and work in any sort of team formation for every single game. The Copycat archetype is by far one of my favorites in any sort of medium because they are extremely compelling when done correctly. Chrollo and Yuta are strong despite the restrictions built into their respective power systems, creating entertaining fights thanks in part to having to battle around said restrictions. Reo is meant to be overpowered, and that's part of his spectacle, but thanks to Soccer's mechanics, he's an amazing player who is limited to his role and not stealing anyone else's. As a whole though, each one of these characters create an air of intrigue. There will always be the question of what technique will they pull out next, and in some cases, the question will be how did they acquire it? Basically, if I had to sum things up, Copycat characters are pure, unadulterated hype. Despite this tried and true archetype, it'll always be good or enjoyable to read when the user's ability to copy is not completely broken or free of restriction or challenge. And with that, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please stay safe out there and have yourselves a damn good one. I'll see you all next time.